Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on an oldie but a goodie. This one is a JC Higgins model 478 freshwater bait casting reel, circa the 1950s, early 1950s. It's got a plastic side place, aluminum spool, a cork arbor, and it's just tired. Dan sent this one in from California, and he just asked me could I make it work better. And this one, well, it's hard to turn. That usually means that it's lack of lubrication, dried greases and the like. And we're going to get started on this one. We'll see if we can't get this one working the way it should. So before I do too much, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That'll help you to see when I'm posting videos and make a determination as to whether that's one that you want to watch. Well, the handle knobs are turning. That's a good thing. And a little bit of the history on the reel then. So the JC Higgins was a brand name for Sears. And JC Higgins, most of the reels, or a majority of the reels that carried the JC Higgins name were manufactured by Ocean City. So even though it doesn't say Ocean City on it, usually you can find a comparable Ocean City model that is identical with the exception of the little name inside. I'm pretty certain that this one was an Ocean City reel. Ocean City went out of business. Well, it actually got acquired by True Temper in the late 1950s, 1957, I believe. For a while there, you got co-branding of the reels. It would say True Temper Ocean City, and then True Temper took over, and I believe True Temper ran through the 1970s, but regardless, this one I believe dates to the 50s because of that plastic side plate or whatever that composite material is. Well, I took the time just to use a light steel wall, and we've oiled those pins. You're going to notice that one of these pins is on an angle, probably from a little bit too much fighting. I don't mess with them. It's pressed in. It's got a peen. If you try to push it back, sometimes they'll snap off. And I just, as long as they're rolling, I kind of leave them that way. Just make sure that they can roll. When I take the pieces off, they go into a parts tray. When the parts tray is a good repository for all of those pieces. And I like to keep them there so that I know where they are when I go to reinstall. One of the suggestions I always make is to take pictures along the way, particularly if you don't know what's inside this reel. Those are going to be good reference points for you. If you take those pictures, if you get stuck along the way, they're going to tell you where those pieces go, the orientation of those pieces, and the order that you took them out. Well, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe, and I cover all kinds of reel. This is a vintage bait casting freshwater reel. Tomorrow it may be a more modern ocean trolling reel. And the next day, well, who knows? We might have a spinning reel, a bait casting reel, low profile reel, I don't know. You're kind of looking over my shoulder as I work in my shop. And from time to time, all kinds of unusual things show up, and I try to do videos on them. We're located in the mid-Atlantic coast. We have fresh water, but we mostly have a lot of salt water, so you'll see a lot of salt water types of reels in my videos. And if you like that, again, please subscribe. If you do subscribe, use the notification. I took the screws out because I like to verify that they are all the same size. If they're not, you want to mark where the smaller screw or the longer screw came from. In this case, they're all the same size. With those 3 screws out, we should be able to remove the side plate. And yeah, I think the safe thing to say is this hasn't been performing very well because, well, you can see there's just a host of dirt and dried grease in this one, and that's the cause of the poor performance. Well, we should be able to push this main gear out. So let's do that, and then let's do a general cleaning here. We're going to do that cleaning by using a penetrating oil. I'm using WD-40 in this case. I have no brand preference on penetrating oils. It's, whatever something runs out and wherever I am, whatever the brand is that's there is kind of what I go for. So if I'm in an Ace Hardware or something, I don't mind the store brand. And if I'm in a place that's selling WD-40 or Liquid Wrench or whatever it may be, well, then that's, if it's needed, that's what it is. Well, I think we just found out as we took this off what the cause of the issue is here, or the poor performance. We had broken line inside. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but that's broken line. It came from under the main gear, and that could be a very significant cause of that. All right, I'm going to remember that this is the front side, and I'm just going to use that steel wool that we cleaned the handle with to clean the shaft here. And before I go too far, I want to clean the face of that gear. And this is where you're going to see it's beautiful materials underneath. So some people think, oh, this is cheap reel or inexpensive reel. Look at it, it's got a plastic side plate on it. Not so. I guess if you were a purist, you can say, well, look at the reels today that are graphite. It's not, graphite isn't necessarily bad just because it isn't steel, and go accordingly. All right, I'm going to use fishing reel grease for this one. I'm going to use Penn Precision reel grease. Not because it's Penn, but because, well, it's fishing reel grease. A little bit on the shaft. I remember what side it was. Put that on. It's got a little indent there, so make sure that you pull it in tight. Check the teeth. If you find that the teeth are clogged with old grease, go ahead and get a brush. You can use a toothbrush, you can use a hard brush, a metal brush if you like, but the key here is get something to pull the old grease out of those teeth so that they mesh nicely. Once you do that, check all the teeth. Make sure that they're uniform. They are. Check them from the side as well. You want to make sure they all have sharp points. Anything less than that is going to generally result in poor performance of the reel. Okay, we're going to just put a good amount of that grease onto the teeth. And there's a little rise on the back end of this side plate here. It's going to act as a washer, keep it high off of that. But you can put a little bit of grease right at the base of the stem here, so that as it rides around that little built-in part of this side plate, that it will work fine. And we'll just go reinsert that in. Make sure that that flat spot there is flush or almost flush to the handle. Well, we've got more line on this side. You can see it's all tangled there. So again, Dan, that's why your reel was performing poorly. Let's take this out. We want to do a good cleaning on this side as well. This has got a pretty modern click mechanism in there. That click mechanism looks a lot like a click mechanism on the Penn reels. It's a nice little copper or bronze or metallic, probably bronze, band. The clicker will move in and out. Click tongue, just like that. And do that a couple of times if you can, and you're fortunate enough to get it to work. Put a little spray of that penetrating oil in there. That'll help loosen it up a little bit. And we're in good condition with that. While you have this open, you've cleaned that side. Come on underneath here. Clean out the reel seat there. Take the opportunity to clean as much of that out as you can. A little bit of buffing, because once you put the spool back in, you're not going to be able to reach that. And if you like, if you see any dirt on those posts, do the same thing with the posts. I notice that there's a little bit more I might be able to get off here, so let's go ahead and do that. Well, while I'm doing that, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, just leave a note in the comment section. I do try to answer those questions for you. This is a dead end post. I was just wondering why it was spinning loosely. Well, that's why. It's a dead end post. All right, and we want to clean off that one little recess there where your line guide assembly is going to travel. This is the line guide assembly here. You want to do a couple of things. All of this service here is about cleaning and inspecting more than it is much of anything else. We're not replacing any broken parts, and that's good because, well, parts availability for this reel is probably non-existent other than finding a donor reel. All right, well, we've scrubbed that. We've cleaned all of the channels. Grab your line guide and turn. Bring it over to the other side because I noticed there is a lot of junk on this side as well. So we want to get that brush in there. And I find that these hard brushes are good. You can see all the dirt that came off of this. as a result of just trying to clean up a little bit. We'll go ahead and take a little pick here and do the same on the side. There's some old grease there. And old grease tends to get in the way. So if you can clean that up, go ahead and do that. Just like we did there. Well, we're going to go out on a limb here and try and get this pole carrier off. If you're meeting resistance there, leave it on. It's not worth the fight if you're getting stuck. We want to do that so that we can oil the pawl underneath. That's a forked cylinder that is going to ride in the grooves of the worm gear. Go ahead and put that back on. And then we can kind of go ahead and put a little bit of oil onto the worm gear. I oil these worm gears. I don't put grease on them. The reason for that is that grease tends to dry, and when it dries, well, it just inhibits performance. So I just noticed there was a little bit more. So let's go ahead and do this again. Get that old grease out of there. And you saw it was moving pretty slow and cumbersome when we did it before. So now I'm just going to work it through, make sure everything's good. I'll come back and put just a little bit more oil on that. Just work it through. There you go. All right. There's it's an opportunity to clean this little chrome trim plate, so go ahead and do that. This is one of the fun things about the projects that come into my shop. You never know what you're going to get. It might be an old vintage reel one day, and it might be the latest and greatest in the lines the next. I'm going to move that back a little bit. We'll clean off the dirt on the other side. Nice chrome piece. This is the drive for your worm gear. Again, you want to inspect all the teeth, make sure that that's in good condition. That's going to be driven by the main gear. So let's go ahead and put some grease on that. And grease on the stud where it's going to go into the side plate case. And grease on the stud where it's going to go into the other side plate case. Once you do that, we can set this back up. I see that there's just a little bit of more of the dirt left in there. I'll use a cotton swab to get that out. There's some accumulated corrosion here. I'm going to use the penetrating oil, see if I can loosen that up at all. Sometimes it's unfortunate, but these Ocean City reels, and again, this is a version of one. These Ocean City reels use these aluminum spools, and when they came into contact with corrosive material, usually salt water, well, they started pitting, and you'll find a lot of these, some of the ones with the teal or the blue-green spools, they rot right through. So do your best to clean it off. It's a reason why you want a strip line at the end of the year, particularly if you're using the old linen braid line. They hold water, and the water just kind of sits there and starts eating at the spool. All right. I think we've probably done as best we can do there without further damaging that spool. Again, wipe off the back end of this. We have a click ratchet. You don't need to oil a click ratchet, but I like to put a little bit of grease where it's going to ride in the case. And then, well, we still got to deal with this broken line here, don't we? Well, that's been there a long time. I'm going to try and find my pliers. See what we can do to pull this old line out. Boy, some of that really got wrapped in there pretty good. And you want to get it all out. And just take your time. Eventually you'll get it all out. Even if it's sort of piece by piece kind of thing. There we go. Eventually it comes out. One more piece there. Okay, let's do the same thing here. We'll use the penetrating oil to kind of loosen up whatever's remaining here on that old grease. And that gear is kind of pinned onto the spool. It doesn't come off. So once you get all of that, this is a good time to get rid of this paper towel. I can hear Chris saying it's time anyway. All right, we've got this done now. Wipe out the bowl of the spool there. A little bit of grease onto the gear of the spool. We've already taken care of the underside of this. And we can do two or three things here. A little bit of grease into the cavity, which is going to be that adjuster cup on the other side. A little bit of grease into the cavity behind here, which is going to anchor the spool. A little bit of grease into this one, which is where the worm drive is going to go. We can start by taking the spool back in. We want to get our shield for the line guide. We want to get that cleaned up. So I'll go use the steel wool on that. And make sure you get the insides in addition to the exterior piece. Okay, that seems to be pretty good. We should have a couple of holes in the side plate. That's going to anchor that. We can see one here and one here. The long side is going to go to the back. The short side to the front is going to anchor like that. The other side should be in here. So we can take our line guide assembly, and this is where you kind of need two hands, I guess, but get it behind your guide, get the guide up, and set it in. And it'll take a little bit of dexterity and a lot of patience, but you will get that set properly. On the back end is the two holes corresponding to that in the metal piece here, so make sure you get that set. There we go. And you got that piece that hooks over the top. The other piece lines up with the piece on the bottom there, and all we have to do then is get this worm gear into the hole, and I know this is probably hard for you to see, and I apologize for that, but that goes in there, and we're pretty much set up now to put the side plate on. You want to take your side plate then. Sometimes you might want to put that in with the handle. And then you just want to align all the pieces. And the best thing to do at the moment here is get this one in. Make sure that you're okay with your side plate piece there. That shield. Kind of holding the pressure. There you go. All right. We're going to take one of those side plate screws and put that into the top here. That's going to hold it firm so you can make any final adjustments you need to make on the reel without kind of doing that gymnastics that I was doing there. So let's tighten that down, or at least get it a good way tightened. And we should be able to do the same on the back. I'm going to use my pick to align that. You can see it coming through. And we'll take the screw from that now. I'm going to do the same thing. You don't have to tighten it in all the way, but get it started, and then that'll stabilize the side plate. Now you want to come over here, make sure that you're in the points here. We are. We're not in the points on the other side, so we want to work to get those in. We did. You can see them anchored in there now, and you want to make sure that that worm gear is in the hole for the worm gear. When you do that, we can get the final screw, put that in. And I think, Daniel, we'll all find that this is a pretty interesting and good running reel once we do this. So what have we done so far? We've disassembled the reel. We've cleaned it up. We noticed there's an awful lot of grease in here that we had to take care of, and we did. And once we did that, well, it was kind of easy to see what the issue was because we had a lot of broken line in there. Once we took care of the broken line, we were able to do the reset of the case. Just trying to get this last piece in here with the handle. There we go. So it may take a moment. Now, one of the ways I kind of was working to fish that out a little bit. One of the ways you could avoid that effort is by putting that handle on before you put the side plate on. But this one's kind of worked for me. Tighten that down. Well, what's left really is try and give it a test now. This should run a whole lot smoother. Oh my gosh. Working beautifully. If you want to adjust your spool, that's what this is for. A little bit less, pull it out, and it'll spin faster. That's a cast control, a little bit tighter. Spins a little bit less. But that's it. Wow. Nice reel. Nice reel. Don't judge a book by the cover. Is that what they say? Some folks dismiss this as not being a nice reel because it's got a plastic side plate. I would say that was probably innovation at the time. And this one's ready to go fishing again. Dan, thanks for sending this one in. It's a very interesting little reel, and I had the pleasure of servicing it and showing other folks how to do it yourself. So there you go, the JC Higgins Model 478 by Ocean City, and a beautiful reel ready to go fishing again. So to all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is you do to keep us safe. Your efforts truly are appreciated. And to all, please stay safe and stay well. I wish you great fishing. Find a friend, take a kid fishing, enjoy the sport, enjoy the art of reel repair. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.